Good afternoon. My name is Chris Masingill, and I'm the CEO of the St. Tammany Corporation. I'm here at the SEDC Conference in New Orleans, a new brave world, and we're fortunate enough to have Ted Abernathy, who's recognized as a workforce expert around the country, along with being a data geek, as he says about or nerd, data nerd, that he says about he and his amazing team. We've done a lot of work together over the years. We had a very impressive presentation by Ted this morning about the 7.5 trends impacting our future, and we want to have a follow-up conversation with Ted about that. So Ted, thank you for being a part of this. Thanks for being part of the conference. You mentioned a couple in the 7.5 that was very interesting, and the practice of economic development is changing so rapidly, as you so pointed out. So from the 7.5 points, what would you think would be the kind of the top 3 takeaways from that you would want to leave practitioners?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that we started with, and the first one, is that the world's accelerating, that things are moving faster, that your clients expect you to respond faster, they expect you to get to market faster, they expect you to answer questions faster, get their approvals faster. So acceleration demands that we start thinking about how we do things in less time, and that's hard. It's hard for people to say, well, I need a permit half as fast, half as long as it used to be. And so I think acceleration is part of it. I think data was a secondary thing. Everybody has data today, so everybody has your data. So if your data is not good, you need to do something to fix it, because it's not going to be hidden. Everybody knows what it is. Data analytics are ruling the world, just like they're ruling sports and manufacturing and everything else and economic development. If you don't have data that looks good, you're not going to get there. And then finally, disruption. We're at a time where our companies are disrupted every day. I told a story this morning that my first economic development job in the 1980s, Digital Equipment Corp, DEC, was my largest employer. It had 20,000 DEC people. And they got bought, and next thing I knew, I had no DEC people. And that was disruption then, but the acceleration now with mergers and acquisitions just changes our business.
So as a practitioner, how do we manage that data, right? How do we recognize those elements that are important that we should turn around and process? You had made a comment that we got to operate at the speed of business.
You do.
We got to be fast, and we got to turn that into action. How would you recommend a couple of things that I would put in practice to do that?
Yeah, so the first thing we tell people, and I didn't use this slide today, but is the first rule of competitiveness is don't drink your own Kool-Aid. The data is what it is, and people get it. As practitioners, you need to know more about your community than anybody else, which means you need a funnel that pushes information into you as fast as you can. And then, the last thing I closed with today was how much the bar is going up to be a great economic developer.
So true.
And so your job is to simplify complex information for people and to convert that into doable actions that improve the competitiveness of your community. That sounds easy, it's one sentence, but it's really hard to do, because you're dealing with information about financial costs, you're dealing with information about labor, you're dealing with information about industry sectors. I mean, there's a lot of different things, and you need to be an expert in all of them. Yes. Now, part of that is that you have to have a team around you that helps you. So you have to have, your group has to have collective intelligence. And you mentioned our team. I mean, I've got people on my team know more about anything than I know. And my job is to get their information and somehow or another put it in my head just long enough to sound smart, especially with a client or with an elected official locally. So how do you manage that? How do you manage yourself and your time and what you can squeeze? And all of our heads are just so big. So
that's right.
It gets harder every day. So I think the practical thing is time management, managing your information, and then doing a really good job of so what, and I've got it. What does all that mean? Yeah, can I make an infographic? Can I do a data visualization? Can I do something that allows the stakeholders in my community to understand what all that means?
You had mentioned this morning and kind of highlighted the importance of dashboards.
Yep.
Speak to that a couple of seconds.
So dashboards done well means that you've taken a lot of really complex information and you've turned it into a visual that people understand. So if you're on a dashboard and your dashboard says, you know, the national growth rate has been 2% and your growth rate's been 3%. Pretty easy. You're doing better. That's what you take away from that, right? If you have a dashboard that says, here's the rankings of the quality of education in the parishes of Louisiana, and our ranking of all the parishes is number 2, number 3, number 27, you know that it's different. And so dashboards take the information that people need, clients need some, your citizens need some, different people need different information, and it visualizes it in a way that allows you to be the scorekeeper. People ought to keep score. I mean, we firmly believe if you track it, it must matter. So, and if you don't ever do the data on it, it must not matter much. And so it allows people to see it, it allows them to decide for themselves. And then if you need a vote here or there, or you need a client that believes something here or there, then your dashboard's a quick, easy way to get them to do it.
Well, that's a great piece of advice. And I noticed this morning, as you pointed out, I think we got 10, 15 minutes into your presentation before we actually touched on workforce.
Yeah.
And we've got to touch on workforce during this little session. So
sure.
We're constantly seeing the battle of talent is driving so many decisions. You reinforced another element of that today. Reinforce that here.
Yeah, I did it on purpose. I mean, I think on social media yesterday, I said that the things I'm hearing in the hall were workforce and equity and workforce and housing and workforce and workforce and workforce and cost. So yeah, and I put it toward the end today because everybody's talking about it. It's the number one issue that drives business decisions. We're at a time when finding people with the right skills, both the quantity and the quality of people, is the top thing business tells you every day is their challenge. And so if they're going to invest in your community, if they're going to stay in your community, it's going to be because they can find people with the talent and enough of them to work for them. And so everything you do has to be about getting people with the right skill set. And in St. Tammany Parish, and you're a part of the world, you know, you've got really highly educated people, but the mismatch between what their education is and what the skills are of your job means that you have commuting issues in and out.
That's right.
Well, every community has some issues, and the data will show you what those are. And if you can figure them out, then you start creating a series of action steps to try to improve that. If you had more high-end white-collar jobs in St. Tammany, fewer people would go across the causeway every day, and that would make your success
We'd
even
like
better.
that a great deal.
Be great.
So give me one talking point as a practitioner I can tell my local workforce partners and elected officials why I'm so involved in workforce education and talent recruitment.
If you want jobs in the future, and you want good jobs in the future, people are going to have the right skills. It's great for business, but it's also great for the individual because Mama doesn't want anybody sitting on the couch, and she wants someone to take care of, which means she wants little Jane and little Johnny to have the skills they need to be successful in the world, feed their families, and enjoy life. That's what workforce is.
That's excellent and great tie into economic development.
It is.
So as we wrap up this conversation, leave us one good tidbit as a practitioner as we close out this conference and people are seeing this when they look onto the SEDC website. The biggest takeaway from today, from what you've shown us and the things that you're leaving behind us, what would you say that is?
Old dogs have to learn new tricks.
I wrote that down. It was in your slide.
It was.
Constantly relearning.
The change makes it such that the quest for learning, the idea of lifelong learning is every day. So if you want to stay ahead, you got to keep working at it.
Yeah. Ted,
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
You bet. Talk to you soon.